Alright, part 3. I'll start with this diagram again. Cover a few more things. If you're on a PC here and you want to communicate with the router, you can telnet to the router using those VTY lines. And remember, telnet's unsecured. So in telnet, that's unsecured. If you use SSH, which we can do through PuTTY, that would be a secured connection. And we actually will learn next term about secured. So you could telnet in and configure the router. While you're working on configuring the router, if you want to save the information that's in the running config, remember the running config is what you can change, and it actually changes right in RAM. Running config's in the RAM. You can take a copy of your running config, copy that to the startup config. So you're really taking something from RAM and sending it to NVRAM. Alright. You can also take and you can copy to a TFTP server. And take your configuration and save that. Remember, router stops broadcast. A switch will go ahead and distribute broadcast. Alright. We did this. We took this last group of 5 in this network and we subnetted them so that we would get 2 addresses, and then we went ahead and did our WAN configurations. So then once we had the interfaces configured, then we turned on a routing protocol. We used RIP, which we learn more about later on, and then that caused us to share the route. Diagram. So you can see I was in this router up here, Mason City. Kind of made a mess out of it, but it had routes to all these networks, and they are all sent out the same interface. Now in the last session, we'll take a look at this router and we'll see the different routes that it has going to all those different directions. And that's it. So then, you can see here, I went in the configuration again and I typed IP route. This gives me all the information, all the codes, and then this is the routing table. That's what the router confers to in order to send the information. And you can see here, these are directly connected routes to this router, Mason City. And then these routes were all learned from the other routers. So then we'll show that in a minute. If it's going to send from one to another, the routers know where those routes are, and they know which interfaces to send it out of. And a little bit later on, I could show you also a router that would have lots of different interfaces to send them out of. We do a show IP interface brief. It shows me which of my networks are up and up. Alright, so that gives you an idea. Then the routing table allows the router then to forward the routes. Now this particular router doesn't have a default gateway set. I would need that set if I was going to go out to the internet And somewheres these private addresses here, these are all private, they would have to be converted using NAT to a public address in order to use it out on the internet. And that's it for this session. A couple other things.